Hi, I am Odu Ode. I am a poet from Nasarawa State, Kana precisely. And today, it's nice having Sir Servio Gbadamosi here on the poems I love. And today, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the poems I love. All right, I'll start with Kwesi Brew, The Mesh. We have come to the crossroads, and I must either leave or come with you. I lingered over the choice, but in the darkness of my doubts, you lifted the lamp of love, and I saw in your face the road that I should take. This is one of the earliest poems I read when I was still in my formative year as a poet, and it resonates with me so much. And I read it in a collection, the poems of Black Africa, edited by Wole Soyinka. And another poem I enjoyed in that collection is Masizi Kunene, Elegy for Igalo, and others. But I so love this poem because it's short, it's concise, and it's fluid, and it speaks to you, and it just speaks to you with the language of an African. And secondly, I'm going to be reading a poem from someone I really love his works, Shittu Fowora, and the title of this poem is 5 Horizons. The first tongue you tasted, nay, the pounding of hearts that followed guile or guilt. You, a farmer, and each till a harvest of naive torsos, Philistia. Angels hatting Gnosis cap, tumble in hills, popping sounds, grenades through tunnels, playgrounds, scamper about in red, wet, dripping skirts, dancing to fear. A little boy of 4 seated in deviance upon his mother's remain, weeping his last, protesting against God and machines. If only once that the essence of living is the wastage and passage of time, and that death, a scattered form of love, is merely the sleep of atoms. This poem resonates with me, and not just this poem. Shittu Fowora's poems always resonate with me because one, his choice of words and the way he twitches language, and his simplicity, as well as his use of fewer words in expressing himself. And Shittu Fowora is a great poet in Nigeria. Of course, he's my mentor, so I'll always say I've learned a great deal from his works. Again, I'm going to be reading a poem by Wislawa Szymborska titled Possibilities. I read this poem in 2019. That's the first time I read the poem in 2019, and it just hits differently, and I could feel the emotion. I could feel the poem the moment I read it. And one thing about a poem is, you read a poem, there is a position you find yourself, or there is a state of emotion you find yourself, and the moment you read a poem, it sticks with you, and you always want to go back to that poem whenever you feel you needed something to keep you going. So I'm going to be reading Possibilities by Wislawa Szymborska. I prefer movies. I prefer cats. I prefer the oaks along the water. I prefer Dickens to Dostoevsky. I prefer myself liking people to myself loving mankind. I prefer keeping a needle and thread on hand just in case. I prefer the color green. I prefer not to maintain the reason is to blame for everything. I prefer exceptions. I prefer exceptions. I prefer to leave early. I prefer talking to doctors about something else. I prefer the old fine line illustrations. I prefer the absurdity of writing poems to the absurdity of not writing poems. I prefer where love's concerned, non-specific anniversaries that can be celebrated every day. I prefer moralists who promise me nothing. I prefer cunning kindness to the other trust, to the over-trustful kind. I prefer the earth in civis. I prefer conquer to conquering countries. I prefer having some reservations. I prefer the hell of chaos to the hell of order. I prefer Grimm's fairy tales to the newspapers front pages. I prefer leaves without flowers to flowers without leaves. I prefer dogs with uncropped tails. I prefer light eyes since mine are dark. I prefer desk drawers. I prefer many things that I haven't mentioned here. To many things I've also left unsaid. I prefer zeros to the loose, to those lying up behind a cipher. I prefer the time of insects to the time of stars. I prefer to knock on the wood. I prefer not to ask how much longer and when. I prefer keeping in mind even the possibility that existence has its own reason for being. So this poem, Possibility, just resonates with me because Wislawa Szymborska played with a lot of imageries and images that I enjoy and I fancy. So the next poem I'm going to be looking at is by Mahmoud Darwish. And yes, Mahmoud Darwish. Mahmoud Darwish is that poet that everyone should read. Mahmoud Darwish and Pablo Neruda, of course, and Nizar Kabani. They are poems that you should read because they speak from a point of honesty in their works. Whenever you read poets like Mahmoud Darwish, you see that honesty in a person's vulnerability. And this poem, I love this poem. The title of the poem is Who Am I Without Exile? So it's more like expression of his emotions in exile and longing for home, kind of. So the poem: a stranger on the river bank, like the river, water binds me to your name. Nothing brings me back from my far away to my palm tree. Not peace and not war. Nothing. Nothing makes me enter the Gospels. Not a thing. Nothing sparkles from the shore of ebb and flow between the Euphrates and the Nile. Nothing makes me descend from the Pharaoh's boots. Nothing carries me or makes me carry an idea, not longing and not promise. What will I do? What will I do without exile and a long night that stares at the water? Water binds me to your name. Nothing makes me from the butterflies of my dreams to my reality, not dust and not fire. What will I do without roses from Samarkand? What will I do in a theater that burnishes the singers that with its lunar stones? Our weight has become light like our houses in the faraway winds. We have become two friends of the strange creatures in the clouds, and we are now losing from the gravities of identity's land. What will I do? What will I do without exile and a long night that stares at the water? Water binds me to your name. There is nothing left of me but you, and nothing left of you but me. The stranger massaging his stranger's thigh. The stranger massaging his stranger's thighs. Oh, stranger, what will we do with what is left to us of calm and of a snooze between two mists, and nothing carries us, not the road and not the house? Was this road always like this from the start, or did our dreams find a mere on the hill among the Mongol horses and exchange us for it? And what will we do? What will we do without exile? So this poem searches home from exile, and no matter how much you stay far from home, no matter how much you stay far from home, you will always long for home. So I feel when he was writing this poem in exile, the thing that comes to him is the longing for home, and I can see him mentioning some places that he's so much long for, places like Samarkand and all that. So poetry gives you an opportunity to express that point of vulnerability you have, and poetry also gives you the language as a weapon to codify your expression, because some vulnerabilities are better left vulnerable, right? So poetry gives an opportunity to codify it and put it in a puzzle that only you can unravel whenever you read these poems. And poetry has this beauty when it comes to language. And when we talk about language, we talk about expression, we talk about human's voice, we talk about how much you use words to express how you feel. And when we talk about language, you can never run away from oral tradition, and that's why African oral literature and oral tradition is rich, because African languages are rich in poetry, and it gives you an opportunity to search your soul. Every language, the Tiv language, the Edoma language, my tribe, Eloi, Igbo language, Yoruba language, when you write with your with this native cadence, it gives this touch of poetry. And when you have conversations with elders in your land and the way they speak, it's highly poetic. And then poetry is not just these words, it is expression, it is the life that all of us as humans live. And no matter how much we do, no matter how much we say we do not appreciate poetry, poetry is that thing that we can never do without. It is the clothes we wear, the color combination of what to put on our apparels. It's the way we try to express our love to people we love. It's the way we try to express our angers and frustration to people that anger us or make us frustrated. So poetry is all-encompassing when it comes to expression. And I really appreciate all of you for listening to me today, and I do hope that you keep following the poems I love by Noirledge, which is August Servio Gbadamosi, and with this you keep seeing through the hearts of people, and you keep seeing the heart of people through the poetry they love, and the ones that resonate with them, and the ones that keeps them going as humans. And thank you so much, and I still remain Odu Ode. Thank you.